Hello. Um, it's been a while since I have done a video here, and I'll get into that way later. But this evening, I wanted to talk about something that I felt was a little bit important. And as you can see, I've dual monitors behind me, and this system now has dual monitors again. So the monitor to my right um, has some notes on there for me to look at so I can, keep my place in this video without getting too lost. So if I look like I'm going off into space like this, I do apologize. Anyway, what I have recently run into is misinformation, let's just say, regarding people voting, the right to vote, what have you. Now, to those who believe that voting is just another way of enabling a system of oppression, blah 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 blah. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to those who are participating in the election season. And one of those things is voter ID laws. Now, I know that there may be some libertarians out there who want integrity in the election season, because after all, there are dishonest people in this country and in this world. And of course, we would want to at least make sure to minimize any and all fraud, right? Well, here's the problem. Voter ID laws are not libertarian, and here's why. They cost taxpayers a lot of money. Oh, go figure, right? It actually suppresses voting because of the restrictions that they can impose, and the motives behind them are not entirely pure. So, let's get into it. The New York Times alone talks about an individual named Treasure Collins who went to, a motor vehicle office in Wisconsin to register to vote. Well, it turned out she was not allowed to, because she had to have an original copy of her birth certificate from a whole nother state. And of course, that's not the most challenging ones. Let's say she was born in North or South Carolina. Well, she has to have a photo ID, or in this case, she would have had to have, a photo ID just to get her birth certificate from either of those states, and other sorts of craziness. So in reality, this thing is not free. This thing costs money. Money that could be spent elsewhere or not spent at all. So for those of you who are like, okay, taxation is theft, this is an indirect poll tax, which poll taxes are prohibited per the 24th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So those, in that sense, it's ridiculous. And when you look at who supported these type of laws, they identify as Republicans because they don't want to lose elections. So what are they going to do? Try to discriminate against as many people as possible to prevent them from participating in the process. And sorry, yeah, I know it's 2016, but unfortunately, racism still exists in this country. It's naive to believe that we are able to get rid of it within a matter of a couple of decades, when slavery had been in place for at least a few centuries, if not more. Actually, a lot more than that. now that I think about it. So to believe that we can get rid of discrimination in a matter of 30, 40, 60 years, no. We have a long way to go on that one. We've made significant progress, but we have a lot of work left to do on that. Now, these things, it's why I'm saying, look, this is not a good idea. And it's redundant. Being able to register to vote in the first place, there's a verification process that goes on during that you certify that you're a U.S. citizen. So you're insulting every county clerk in existence, saying they are incapable of doing their jobs as well. So if I were a county clerk, I'd be frankly insulted by laws such as that. And recently, Texas law was partially, struck down because of the restrictiveness of it all. New York Times has, a couple of good articles on it. And through the New Republic website, I was also able to come upon an academic study that demonstrated, hey, this costs money. There's also a piece from Forbes, and PBS has a nice little piece demonstrating that, hey, it's not really about fraud. It's really about winning an election by not having to work as hard for it. So the motivation's not pure. It's bunk. It's meant to push people away. And in reality, those laws can be turned against the Libertarian Party itself. If you haven't noticed, we've been building momentum for a number of years now because more people are getting tired of the same thing. Now imagine what would happen if we made such a big dent this year that we reached the 5% threshold. Well, guess what? Those same voter ID laws could be turned around against you and I if we're not careful. And that is the big issue at hand. And that's why I oppose voter ID laws. They're redundant and unnecessary. Voter registration cards, you have to keep that up to date anyway. So having, some way to prove that you are who you say you are and that you're a citizen, it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. There are better ways of doing these things. And before anybody else gets into it, you try telling somebody who's elderly and disabled, hey, you have to have a photo ID even though you've been able to successfully vote several years prior, and see how they respond. Probably not very favorably. And that's the issue at hand, isn't it? Sorry, I can't support something that is actually an act of aggression. And that's why voter ID laws are not libertarian at all and should be opposed on every front. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again later.